Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Apologies for the late start. Unfortunately, we were unable to get hold of Tanvir. Luckily, the Kashmiris have come to our aid as forever. And we have with us here tonight Axia Ali Saif, a young activist on the ground in Azad Kashmir. And so Mary and I will be exploring what's happening right now within the youth in Azad Kashmir and incidents in Azad Kashmir itself. So my name is Claire Bidwell. I'm a primary school teacher. I live in Scotland and I'm a human rights activist, essentially a pro-Kashmiri activist. And with me tonight, I have Mary Scully from the United States. Mary Scully is a political writer and a human rights activist and has been a struggler in, against oppression, illegal occupation, humanities, anything that is unfair and unjust. Mary's there and with the people. So she's here tonight to meet with Ali. Mary, how are you this evening?
I'm good, Claire. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. That was a little bit of a fraught 30 minutes trying to find somebody to join us, but thankfully we've done that. So we're very grateful to Ali. Now, Ali isn't on video, he's just on voice, but it is very clear and audible. And we may also be having somebody else joining us soon as well. So we just have there on the audio. So can you hear us, Ali?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I'm going to pass you now over to Mary. She will have the conversation with you. And we're looking forward to hearing what we can learn. One of the things Mary and I have found is from all the activities going on, unfortunately, we do not have Urdu. We are not gifted in that respect. So we thank you very much, knowing that English isn't your first language, to come and share things with us so we can share them to the international community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's honor.
Ali, we like to begin by asking our guests to tell us something about themselves, about where you're from, where you grew up, and how you developed into a political activist. We're very interested in how that happened. So could you tell us something about yourself?
Sure, let me introduce myself. My name is Yasin Maliks, and I am a student of international relations. And now in student of international relations, and I involved in myself in political activities such as independent movements and which is going on in Kashmir. As I have seen many things which we are facing in Indian occupied Jammu Kashmir, and the injustice and the innocent people, you know that with the passage of time, day by day, they are killing the innocent people. And by seeing that, I involved myself with these movements and with these activities.
How old were you when you became politically involved? What age?
I was just in 12th when I joined these movements and these activities, and now I am a student of bachelor's.
Did you join when you became a student? You were in the 12th grade. Is that what it was?
Yes, yes.
It's like high school, like Western high school.
Yes, it was high school.
Yes, it's quite young. Could you begin by telling us, set the framework for us for what's going on now in Azad Kashmir around the defense of Yasin Malik? We understand there have been solidarity hunger strikes. There have been marches to the line of control, sit-ins at the line of control. And we would like, could you just set the framework for our discussion by telling us what's going on? It's quite significant, and I don't think a lot of people, like Claire said, who don't speak Urdu, are aware of what's going on and how important it is. Right now around Yasin Malik, around his hunger strike.
Yes, as you know that Yasin Malik is on hunger strike, and he was very sick, and he was admitted last day in hospital. As I can understand that the human rights organization must recognize that as a human, the cases that were filed on Yasin Malik was not proved. They were that cases were only foreign funding and funding from Pakistan. That cases that were just cases and not that were the empirical data provided by the government and by the other agencies. But now, after his punishment arrived by the court of Jammu, he was sentenced to the jail, and now he is on strike hanger strike in Tihar jail from July 2023. He was shifted to RML hospital in Delhi on Tuesday after his health deteriorated. So in Kashmir, Azad Kashmir, the last 2 days, there were protests in LOC sector at the three notes, called name three note, place name three notes, for recognizing and to highlight the issue that the government and the international organizations and all the human rights organizations must know that he is on hunger strike, and they must recognize and follow the human rights according to the United Nations, and that the punishment by the Tihar jail and all the administration of Indian occupied Kashmir and the Modi governments must be reduced his punishment according to the rules and regulations by international community and international organizations. Uh, the motive of the basic this movement is to highlight the punishment which was given by the Indian government to the Yasin Malik, and to reduce and to provide relief to as a human.
Okay. Do you know how many people have been participating in these protests and hunger strikes and sit-ins and things? Has it been a sizable movement, or mostly the very committed core of people?
Almost all the people.
I'm
Yes, yes. Mostly all the people were included in this protest and in this movement, which was at LOC sector, and not a specific group, or not mostly the people from Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front in AJK movement were included in this protest, and the leader Tokir Gilani and his wife especially led this protest. And due to the Muharram, as Muharram, a Islamic month, for the respect of the Muharram, we are pending this protest, and we will lead toward 27th of October again at another district.
So it's an ongoing movement. That's excellent. Can you? We would like to know about the state of youth organizing, of the involvement and the participation of young people in this movement. I know we see pictures of people, protesters with their children, but we're talking about teenagers and young people. How are they involved? Are students involved? Are young working people involved? Are women involved? Are women in large numbers involved organizing around the issues of the Kashmiri freedom anti-colonial struggle? Can you elaborate on some of that? Are they involved, and how are they getting involved, and around what issues are they concerned? Like, for example, are they the occupation, the issue of the occupation, the issue of sexual violence against women? What are the issues that the students are coming into action around?
As Mary, basically the issue is our issue is freedom. We are freedom fighter, and all the people are here are freedom fighter. And the main purpose of the protest, not any other reason, not sexually harm or any other reason. The basic reason is to we are highlighting the issue, the release of Yasin Malik. So all the women, children, and young and teenager are included in this movement, and they were on protest, as I told you earlier. So the main purpose of this movement and protest is and will be the freedom for Yasin Malik release.
Yes, that's the impetus of the movement right now. I mean, I've seen the most impressive protests and caravans, a truck and car caravan from the JKL, uh, JK, JKLF activists over the years. Some of the most impressive demonstrations that I've seen from in Azad Kashmir around the question of the occupation or around other issues. But this one, you say the impetus is primarily demanding the release of Yasin Malik. That's what,
Yes,
is that what you're saying? Okay,
yes, very.
okay. How does the JKLF, because they are the key organizers here, how are they, where are they reaching out? Where are they trying to get people involved? Are they finding the most interest on campuses? Are they finding, do they talk to young people in labor unions, where in organizations, other organizations, civic organizations? Where are they meeting the young people that are most involved in the issue of the freedom struggle in Kashmir?
Basically,
Mostly,
there.
we want to get a sense of the character of the movement. Is my question not clear? Am I? You heard my question, right? Have we lost connection, Ali?
Yes, Mary, we have lost connection at the moment. He's disappeared. Hopefully he will be back in a moment. Do we know, Mary, sorry, did he actually attend the protest himself at the line of control?
He didn't say if he
It'd be
had.
interesting to find out if he did that, but it's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that I understand is I believe there were over 50,000 people that went up to the Freedom Line. I am aware that
50,000 people?
yeah, I mean, this is the thing with and that's where the babies were as well. I mean, the women, the children, and the local people apparently were amazing, within feeding them,
50,000.
looking after them. The noise, they were whistling one night madly at midnight to annoy the troops on the line. So,
50.
I can see a lot of people in Facebook are making jokes that they came away after 6 days. So there's a lot of kidding kind of going on. And, I feel that they will have learned so much in the time that they were there. They have shared so much in the time that they were there. As a Let Kashmir Decide solidarity movement, we salute everybody's work.
Oh, yeah.
We're not on the ground, we're not in Azad Kashmir, so we don't know what people have directly facing them. It's not easy, I
No.
know without mention, well, I won't mention names, but people, their lives are impacted by this. How I couldn't, when I'm teaching, I couldn't go and sit at a line of control for 6 days without losing my job. And sadly, I'm aware of people that this has happened to. You've also got the families. So it's a very tricky time it's tricky time to go and sit indefinitely at a line of control. And I think I shared, I came across a quote last night, which I absolutely loved. And it was basically each day, don't look at what you're reaping, what you've gathered, what you've earned. Look at what you've sowed. And regardless of what anybody says, even in joking, what that JKLF leadership movement did by going up to the line of control was so many, many seeds. Um, and the connections they would have all have made, the building, and we're working towards, and I know so many more Kashmiris now who are working towards that unity, having respect and dignity for other people's feelings. They're all going in the same direction. They all want freedom, they all want to stop human rights abuses, and they all want the democracy. And if they're fighting with one another or arguing with one another how best to get that, then it's not always very helpful. Yes, it's good camaraderie. Ultimately, we know that on a symbolic level, so many people came around the Let Kashmir Decide and the unity with tea. And that is because, well, everybody likes tea, and it's to raise the awareness of the Kashmiri's voice. So whoever they are, however they protest, you will always find Let Kashmir Decide supporting them. It would be wonderful, like we say, 27th of October, I believe the day is for the next ceasefire line visit. How wonderful if they could go with more than 50,000 this time. And so many people have seen what they've achieved. If other groups would go with them on that day, then it's more thunderous. And obviously, as an ongoing movement, which is what we want, Mary, to build the momentum, I guess that's what we want to see, isn't it? Sadly, I can't see any connection with Ali coming back in. We could really be helpful for us because one of the reasons we had this show was to find out what's happening in Azad Kashmir and the role of the youth, which we're going to count anybody below 35. They are the youth. We might even go for 40. So Mary, from what you've seen and what you can understand, what's your thoughts, visions, ideas as we go forward?
Well, for me, I'm at a loss because I really, and I'm glad you're taking a lot of initiative on this. I don't have a full picture of the Yasin Malik movement in Azad, and it's news to me that 50,000 people participated in that action at the line of control. That's an astonishing action, and I think we need to know more about that. I know that you are preparing a show to discuss that with Shams Rehman, and I think
that's going to be on Sunday at 2:00 with Shams Rehman to find out in detail about what's happening in Azad Kashmir. We will look at all the protests, and Shams has a real, real insight. So please join us on Sunday at 2:00. It will be 7:00 in Pakistan time and 7:30 in India.
Yes, he's a very insightful commentator and analyst. So I think it's really valuable that you have that discussion with him so that we know just how momentous this movement is in Azad. And that is in the context of Yasin Malik being on a hunger strike and now in hospital, and probably on the edge of death. And the fact that the Indian Army is preparing for an uprising or at least major protests in Kashmir itself if Yasin Malik actually dies. I think you told me they had troops stationed at his family home.
His house, and and that's obviously on Indian occupied Kashmir. For me, sitting on the outside looking in at what I've seen, this whole event, they started ticking over in Azad Kashmir when we had the JKLF go to Muzaffarabad to deliver the letter to the Human Rights Office there, United Nations Office. and very sadly we saw the disposal of them, the dispersion of them, the arresting of the leadership, the trouble through the night. And I'm not sure if I could still be heard there, and I've lost my connection. Mary's struggling to be with us just now. So we saw that, and then we saw the hunger strikes.
Oh, shoot.
Were you still able to hear me, Mary?
I can. It's freezing. Your screen is freezing a little bit.
Oh dear. Were you still able to hear me, Mary?
I can hear your voice. Yes. The screen is freezing, but yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll continue. It'll be my signal connection, I think. Yeah. So we saw all that, and the questions over why the protest when it was against India, it was for Yasin Malik, and yet the Azad police came up, and I'm not sure there ever was an answer for that. Then we saw, and this is from all groups in Azad Kashmir, when Yasin Malik started his hunger strike, one section of JKLF across the world, in Europe, America, everywhere, they joined in solidarity for 3 days. And perhaps one of the most poignant ones, they were in many cities. They were in Muzaffarabad, in Kotli, in other areas also. And the poignant one was at Islamabad. One of the things that was quite hard was that we saw Yasin Malik's daughter, crying for her dad during the week, begging him not to go on the hunger strike, urging the international community to help, begging Modi to save her papa. And here we saw her handing the JKLF current standing chairperson, what do you call it when they're representing the chairperson at the moment, and she gave him with her own hand the juice to break his fast, and now she can't break her father's fast, but she was able to break the fast of those supporting him. And so the role that they take forward now is really important, because as they say, you can kill the man, but you cannot kill the ideology. So we saw people at the line of control having a hunger strike in Azad. Now we know in Indian occupied Kashmir, they wouldn't be allowed anywhere near the ceasefire line. They'd be shot before they even got there. So it was good to be able to see that a group could get up there. Now people know. And so they're all sitting, they're all there for Yasin Malik. They're all there for freedom. They're all there for human rights and for voices to be heard. Now it's the unity that could take them forward. We know there's actions down on the roads, in the streets, over the taxes, rising taxes on their electricity, and political actions in Azad. And there's a lot of people standing up for their rights. So, there's strength in the movement, and we can see that. But sadly, we know this was huge. A big march to the ceasefire line with 50,000 people.
50,000 people.
The Berlin Wall coming down, yet it's not in our media, and it's not brought out here. And I think we're trying ourselves to find out, what's happened. And we do have that language barrier, because at the line of control protest, they can share their speeches, they can share their ideas, and they don't have a clue what they're saying without asking other people. So yeah, there we go. So, we're all living with our hearts in the mouths, obviously, at the moment. Kashmiri people have told me I'm not to lose hope until there is no hope left. So we all sit here hoping that he will. We know he's a strong man. We know he's a brave man, and he has made his decision. He's made his choice for this freedom movement, and now we make our choices, which for me is to support his decision, but also to write everywhere, campaign to everyone. I shared an address yesterday on my page where you could contact Modi directly. And, I think it's appealing, because I think India, it's not going to do them any favors, and they will actually strengthen the Kashmiri movement if they let him die. And I don't know if they are aware of that. It's an amazing moment for India to show, hey, hang on a minute, we do have a human face, and we will show the world. India were democratic in the past when they allowed Yasin Malik onto the political stage. He is a solution to the problem. sadly, we're seeing that it looks like Modi and his BJP government, they don't want any solution. So they're letting the solution die.
I actually think that India will let him die. Like Margaret Thatcher allowed Bobby Sands and the other Republicans to die in the 1981 strike, like Israel has allowed Palestinian hunger strikers to die mercilessly. I think that they think they'll ride out the storm. There'll be a flap and they'll ride out the storm. And I think that they, like you said, if they move troops into Srinagar around his home, it's because they intend to repress any protesting or mourning, even public mourning, if Yasin Malik dies. They're prepared to repress any kind of show of grief or support for Yasin Malik.
Definitely. And I mean, we saw when Bobby Sands died, you know, for anybody that doesn't know, an Irish freedom fighter, when Ireland were looking for more power with the UK government. At the time, he was part of a group called the IRA, and they would place bombs upon our underground or under people's cars, and they did kill people. But it was all they wanted, again, was the opportunity to be listened to and valued and part of the process. And that's where it went. It ended up with the Good Friday Agreement, which saw the end to all the troubles. And they had their more power, their more say, which was all they asked for. So all these years wasted. And as Mary said, you know, Margaret Thatcher essentially was the reason then for letting him die. The people that came out for his funeral were massive, absolutely massive. There is a video online if you Google him, and you can see. Now, I don't think anybody, you know, we're not violent activists, and I don't like violence of any sort. So, and as a child, I can remember having that fear of getting on an underground train and hoping a bomb wasn't going to go off. So that's how they used that for the. Mary.
You know, it wasn't the entire Irish Republican movement that did that. It was a small faction, and I think it was a time. I think it was also a time that where Palestinians, the Irish, and Kashmiris also, Mahmoud Bal, were discussing the concept of guerrilla warfare as the strategy to fight occupation. And I think most of them, the Irish Republican movement, the Palestinians, and Kashmiris came to a place, certainly Yasin Malik's political evolution is part of that, where they decided that guerrilla warfare wasn't the best strategy against occupation because they were out-armed, outgunned, and would be massacred more than they would achieve freedom. So it was something that both those three movements went through. Now, also in Latin America, these movements went through that discussion and came out. But as part of the war on terror narrative, that's part of, you know, the terrorist business that Modi is trying to peddle for Kashmir, and certainly Israel for Palestinians. They have to maintain the notion that terrorism is an issue and that Yasin Malik played a leading role in Kashmiri terrorism when he didn't. He specifically rejected that as a strategy in terms of political organizing. So it was an important evolution that they went through. At the same time, Makbul Bhat talks about that. The founder of the JKL talks about that whole process. They weren't terrorists; they're freedom fighters. Even if they use terrorist methods, excuse me, it's a misguided method.
Well, as you said as well, it's a faction. It wasn't all of them. Not all used those methods. So, and it's about the cause, isn't it? And as you say, we know because we've learned on it, you know, and that is the narrative that is still sold in our country, that these people wanting freedom are terrorists. And this is what India, as you say, are peddling. They need to be in Kashmir because they need to weed out the terrorists. And so many people just believe that story because they don't ask other questions. And, you know, this is the role of Let Kashmir Decide, the global coalition. We do have a mandate. It's a human rights mandate, you know, and it urges the release of all political prisoners within the Kashmiri issue because they have a right under United Nations articles, charters, that they can take a stand for their own land. And also, you know, nobody's meant to be arresting any Kashmiri prisoners. This is disputed territory. So India have no right. You know, for me, it's not even their judicial systems should not even be trying Yasin Malik. So we have a world that is silenced. You know, so for us, for a people's movement, it's going to have to come from the people. And this is why it's so important for us, where we're looking for people to change their profiles red right now, to advertise for the 5th of August, you know, let people know, because it's a simple action and people will ask, well, why is your profile red? You know, who's this Yasin Malik? And that's the only way they will learn. And the more people we gather, then they will protest on their government. So at this time, Kashmiris, I'll use the UK as an example because that's where I am, you know, but so many have written to their members of parliament. If you haven't and you're in the UK and you're listening, please do, or whatever country you are. You know, myself, and I hope lots of people are taking these actions. I mean, I've written to the UN General Secretary on behalf of myself, Let Kashmir Decide. I've written to Modi, I've contacted my MP. You know, I've emailed Amnesty, people that I know there, trying to find out how much more can we do, what's happening. So on our social medias, changing our profile, it's simple, but it's massive because we need to raise awareness. And that's what we're doing here. It's disappointing, Mary, that Ali hasn't been able to come back and join us because we didn't want to just go ahead with the show where it was just us again, because we spoke for an hour, I think, last week. Mary, I guess what I'd like to do is just give the message out there to people that we are campaigning right now for the 5th of August, Red for Kashmir. It's a voice for Kashmiris, you know, and it's a movement with people that care about Kashmir. It's not against India. It's not against Pakistan. It is just for Kashmiris' voices to come out and to be heard, because that's what's missing. Obviously, Yasin Malik is a key part of our campaign because he's in serious condition right now in Tahar jail. We believe that is a terrible injustice. We have many people joining us in the Red campaign. CJ Wellerman will be going red alongside us. The more people we can encourage on the 5th to turn your profiles bright red, anyone you can reach, please do that. On the day, we'll be uploading posts, the stories, and what's happening. And in the meantime, working with one another, working with others, listening to what any of us can do to help with Yasin Malik's release. You know, we just keep hoping that that key, that news, that door, something will be opened at one point, but it won't open if we don't try. So we embrace everything we can. We embrace everybody, and we're moving forward with Red for Kashmir to raise awareness, because it's all we have. For me, sitting in Scotland, that's all I have to campaign, tell the people, and raise the awareness. So thank you for listening. Mary, can I leave you to give one last message and then we'll wrap up the show?
Yes, well, tell Ali we're sorry that we didn't finish, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to him again later, and we'll find out why Tanvir couldn't join us. And I urge everyone to listen to the show with you and Sham this coming Sunday, because I think it's really important. He's very knowledgeable and very insightful analyst, and we'll learn a lot about what the movement is going on in Azad right now. And I hope that you ask him what it means that the police shot at the protesters, what that whole attack on the JKLF protesters means for the future of activism for Kashmir in Azad. That's an alarming kind of development. I hope he'll go into that.
Sorry, I muted myself. I will. I have lots of questions that I would like to ask him, and we will get in-depth discussion. And obviously, we hope to share that to the English speaking community that struggle to hear when it is in another place with the language. And obviously the occupiers, which can include UK, USA, all those around it that aren't speaking up and just keep saying this is a matter for India when it very clearly isn't. It's important that we maintain that, and we try to bring the ones that bring out the voice for people to see the injustice. You know, we all care about humanity, and if you do care about human rights, then you should care about Kashmir. So thank you so much to everybody listening. Mary, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Dreadfully disappointed that Tanvir didn't join us. Sadly, that we we lost the link there with Ali. It'd be good if he was able to come back and join us one day, but I'll pass that on. So thank you, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you again soon. Okay, bye.